What will Big Ben's legacy be?
Look, man, he'll go down as one of the best quarterbacks who have played in our league. He's a two-time Super Bowl champion. He's on the top 10 list in a bunch of different passing categories. And he is kind of the epitome of what we talk about when we think about the big franchise quarterback. I think what gets lost is in watching the aging Ben Roethlisberger, we fail to remember what Ben Roethlisberger was like when he was a young guy that was running around, the gunslinger, the guy who could extend plays and make these magical plays on script and also off the script. Now he's kind of become the guy that's the stationary pocket passer. But what the league will remember is the guy that ran around. And never forget, Ben Roethlisberger came from Miami of Ohio, and he was drafted by the Steelers at a time in which, look, you had Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers in that same class. He came outside of a Power 5 conference, as we recognize now, had a lot of success. And I actually believe that his success as a big body playmaker coming from one of those non-traditional schools paved the way for guys like Josh Allen and others to kind of follow that path. So he'll go down as one of the best players that we've seen. He also will go down as a trailblazer for those that came outside of those traditional schools.
I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so I know this Steelers organization and this fan base very well, and the energy around it and the standards that they have there. And watching last night, Ben Roethlisberger felt like the last old school quarterback. That's what it felt like to me watching Ben finish his career in Pittsburgh. We've moved into a new era of the position where we don't have a standard for what size you need to be, what skill sets you need to have, what you need to be best at. There's so many different types of quarterbacks and different kinds of styles, and all of the rules lean towards the offense. So there's so many different ways that you can construct a team now. We've kind of moved away from the big statue monster guy that can throw off defenders and sling it down the field. And that's what Ben was. He wasn't a finesse guy, but he was perfect for the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. He was perfect for his time, and he had a wildly successful career. Take the last few seasons, which have been bumpy, out, just ignore those, which were still winning seasons, by the way, because he has never quarterbacked a Steelers season that was a losing season. And that is the thing that is so remarkable about Big Ben to me, and such a reflection of the Steelers organization as a whole. That we can talk all about how he's aged and his body and what he didn't do in the offseason, but he has never quarterbacked a Steelers team that has had a losing season. They have not had a losing season since Mike Tomlin has been there. That is an incredible era. When you look around the league and look at some of the teams that we talk about having these rises, here's the Steelers every single year being competitive, being in the conversation. Did they underachieve some years? Absolutely. But when I look at what Ben's legacy is, he always felt like the city of Pittsburgh. He completely bought into what the Steelers are. He was a winner without question. When we talk about who's a winning quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger might be the epitome of what a winning quarterback is. Consistent there, maybe not perfect, a little clunky at times, a little bit of drama, a little bit of diva, not everything that we would want and perfect. But that's not what the Steelers are. That's not what Pittsburgh is. They don't aspire to be fancy, get the job done, be consistent, show up to work, buy in. And that's what Big Ben was to me. And watching last night, I felt like, you know what? I'm watching the old school go away, and it feels okay. It feels right. Aaron Rodgers might be in that same group, older, but he is not an old school quarterback, a traditional old school quarterback. Certainly not Tom Brady with the yoga and flexibility and avocado ice cream. He's an older guy, but he doesn't have that feel. And I think that's a great legacy on top of, obviously, 2 Super Bowl wins and 3 appearances and all of the wins and records that he has.
Well said, Joy. It did feel like there was an era ending with Ben, the Big Ben leaving. And to your point, it's, first of all, for me, big picture, not on the absolute top tier of quarterbacks in the history of the NFL, but clearly on that next tier with the Eli Mannings and some of the other guys that were certainly more highly touted when they were coming out of college. That said, what made Big Ben so unique for me is, number one, the physically toughest guy that I've ever seen play the position. Yeah, he ran around, Bucky, but he also took a lot of hits and still would stand there, take the hits, and throw from wherever he might be. Holds the record for most sacked quarterback ever as a result. Some of that is because of the last few years, but certainly he was on that track his entire career. And yet, to Joy's point, really captured the persona of Pittsburgh, which is, regardless of how you feel, whether you're hurt, you're banged up, you show up for work. Lunch pail, hard hat mentality, and embodied the persona of the Pittsburgh Steelers and that city. I dare say if you drew a caricature of what a Pittsburgh Steeler player should look like, that stubble-bearded face of Big Ben would be a perfect model for it. And I think that's why you saw so much love and adoration going both ways between Big Ben and that fan base as he was saying goodbye last night. So it really, I can't think of another quarterback in recent memory, not just with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but with the entire AFC North. And it may be because he used the Cincinnati Bengals as a punching bag for many years until this past season. But I feel as if, like, his presence in that entire division when he goes is going to be missed because he was that much of a presence in football in general, but sort of in the AFC North in particular.
Well, the ending of a Hall of Fame career for sure, and I agree with you. It's going to feel very different in this division without Ben Roethlisberger there, but they have a lot of youth in that division, a lot of talent in that division now. So what do you do next year? Bucky, what should the Steelers do to replace Big Ben?
Well, they got two guys already in the bullpen, and Mason Rudolph, who's on the contract, and Dwayne Haskins. And so based on how the Steelers typically operate, is next man up. They give one of those guys an opportunity to maybe get up under center, and maybe that's your starting quarterback in 2022. The other option will be the draft. The problem with the draft is I don't know if this class is as strong as previous classes. And so there may be an opportunity for the Pittsburgh Steelers to take a guy, but there's no guarantee that as a rookie, the guy that comes in is going to be better than Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins. And so I think you have to go back and remember how this played out in the preseason and how they really took a chance on Dwayne Haskins, put him on the field. He played well in some preseason games and those things. I think the Steelers are going to try and kick the tires on one of the guys that they currently have and see if one of those guys can be the heir apparent to Ben Roethlisberger, while also keeping an eye towards the draft to see if they can find the next guy, maybe in the first round, maybe later. But they certainly have to go with a young quarterback at the position going forward.
Oh, I disagree. I hope you're very wrong, Bucky. I'm rooting against everything you just said very strongly. This division isn't a division you can play around in anymore. We already talked about Baker Mayfield. If he's healthy, if he comes back, if everything's perfect, we know the Browns can be competitive. Joe Burrow is in the MVP conversation. Lamar Jackson was an MVP. He's going to come back healthy, and they're going to be at the top of the league again in Baltimore. So this isn't a division you can fall behind in. My frustration with the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point was that they were so stagnant in having a replacement plan for Ben Roethlisberger, because I don't think that Mason Rudolph is it. And I don't think that's it because we saw what Mason Rudolph did with this team when Ben Roethlisberger was hurt. Yeah, they have a winning season because Mike Tomlin is there. But Mason Rudolph is not the future of this team. I don't know if Dwayne Haskins is. I don't think we've seen enough from him. But I don't feel great about it. We haven't heard a whole lot about it. We saw what he did in Washington. Do we know if he's a franchise quarterback? This isn't a situation where you can just mail it in and kick the tires is not going to make me enthused about the offseason. If I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously the dream would be Aaron Rodgers leaves Green Bay and comes to Pittsburgh, right? But you can't count on that. I don't think Russell Wilson is even an option. Why would he leave Seattle for the Pittsburgh Steelers? If he's going to leave, I think he's going to go somewhere like the Saints or New York. He's going to go to a bigger market. So I don't even think the Pittsburgh is on the board for that. Maybe Aaron Rodgers, maybe it's a fantasy, but you can't count on that. I would go out and get a mid-level starting quarterback, stay competitive this year, and wait and see what's in the draft next year. And then next year, trade what you need to move up and get a quarterback that you feel good about if you don't like anyone in this draft. Obviously, Kenny Pickett constantly comes up in the conversation. But look, if the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't in on Kenny Pickett, there's a reason why, because he's in the building with them. There's no team in the league that's going to know Kenny Pickett more than the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I don't think that you can take a risk on the rookie, and kicking the tires with Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins does not make me feel good about the Steelers' future next year.
Okay, wait a minute. So aren't you mad at the Green Bay Packers because they took an heir apparent for Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love?
No.
But the Pittsburgh Steelers should have taken somebody?
No.
Ben Roethlisberger?
No. I'm not mad at them for taking Jordan Love. I'm mad at them for trading up to get Jordan Love when Aaron Rodgers was still Aaron Rodgers. A little bit of a deterioration, if you want to call it that. He's going to win 2 MVPs since, so I didn't see the rust, but apparently somebody did. What my issue with the Green Bay Packers did was they traded up to get Jordan Love without talking to Aaron Rodgers about it. Ben Roethlisberger was a whole injured. He was injured. We got to see the whole team, the season without Ben Roethlisberger, and evaluate Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. So that's not the same thing. Like, it was the ends for Ben Roethlisberger. We all saw this coming. It was a slow drip, but we're here. It wasn't the end for Aaron Rodgers, which we are clearly seeing now. So I didn't like the way that they handled it. Taking Jordan Love was fine if Aaron Rodgers was okay with it, which he clearly wasn't.
Fair
right.
with all of that. But I've decided that I'm going to take Bucky's lead when it comes to positivity. Bucky, what happened? What happened suddenly? It's still January 2022, and now suddenly you're so negative about the draft and the talent and the possibility of finding a quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I see this actually as an opportunity to go get someone because they're not likely to have to move up in the draft in order to get a quarterback. They're going to have their choice of a number of different guys. It's going to be a bit of a gamble. I dare say that if they are in on Kenny Pickett, I certainly wouldn't want to be advertising that if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, because it's not as if I'm going to have a top pick in the draft. So I would keep that under wraps. But the Steelers as a whole right now have a lot to improve on and fix in order to stay in the mix in the AFC North and in the NFL in general. It's not just replacing the quarterback. So whether they have a placeholder there, whether they give Rudolph a shot, whether they give Haskins a shot, they've got a lot of other pieces that they need to improve on. And presumably going to do that at least in part through the draft. So the idea that you can take a flyer on a quarterback and you don't need to trade up and trade assets in order to get up into the top 5, top 10 in order to get one, I believe is it actually an opportunity, whether it's Kenny Pickett or somebody else. So look, this is the biggest difficulty when it comes to the Steelers and trying to replace Big Ben Roethlisberger is the legacy that you are following, right, is so enormous. Anybody coming in is not going to be able to live up to that. And right now, they have Najee Harris and not a whole lot else. So I think the most important thing right now is to temper expectations as far as what the Steelers are going to be, at least for a season. This is going to be a reset season for them. I wouldn't worry about competing with the Bengals and the Ravens right now for where they are.
Oh, no, I'm always worried about that. But that's why I like the idea of bringing in a veteran, because that's what you saw for that year after Tom Brady in New England. That's what we've seen for the Saints in New Orleans, is that the expectations are not going to be the same because we know what those veterans are. If you bring in a rookie, now it's time to start legacy building, and that's a lot of pressure.